Hello guys, and welcome to this week's edition of AI Governance Weekly here on the AI Governance Engineering YouTube channel with myself, Gavin. So what's just happened? Europe just broke one of the most fundamental rules in global standardization, and now the whole AI standards system is fracturing in real time. ISO and IEC just rejected Europe's leadership on critical AI standards. So here's what went down. Earlier this month, CEN and CENELEC's technical board made a controversial move. They replaced their inclusive consensus building process with drafting groups of handpicked experts. The goal was to finalise the most delayed AI standards for the EU AI Act. Several experts involved say this violates CEN-CENELEC's own internal rules, and it abandons consensus, which is one of 6 principles enshrined in the World Trade Organization's technical barriers to trade agreement. Then last week, October 20th, the ISO and IEC Joint AI Committee met in Sydney, and they turned down 2 requests from CEN to lead parallel development on standards for computer vision and natural language processing. The US delegation, backed by Australia and New Zealand, opposed CEN's leadership, citing concerns about its reliability. Most other members just abstained from voting. European delegations managed to get 1 concession. CEN and CENELEC had to formally explain the situation before any final rejection. But even if the request eventually get accepted, CEN would likely lose its leadership role. So what does this actually mean for companies building AI? Well, first, you're losing international alignment on AI standards. ISO and IEC are formally linked to European standardization through the Vienna and Frankfurt agreements. These agreements exist specifically to keep standards internationally aligned and prevent fragmentation, but that system just broke down. When Europe abandons consensus and ISO-IEC rejects European leadership, you end up with competing standards, computer vision standards, natural language processing standards. These aren't optional technical details, they're core to how most AI systems work, and now you might be facing different requirements in Europe versus the rest of the world. Second, this could slow future cooperation on EU AI Act standards. The European Commission is planning to convert its code of practice for general purpose AI models into technical standards, and that process needs ISO cooperation, and right now that relationship is strained. Third, and this is where it gets geopolitical, there's real concern this could embolden other countries. So if Europe can bypass consensus using emergency procedures, what's stopping China from pushing their own standards more aggressively? So let me break down what actually happened here. Normally, European standards development follows a consensus-based process. You bring together experts from all the national standards bodies, industry, civil society, and you work towards unanimous agreements, or at least expert consensus. It's slow, it's messy, but it prevents any single country or stakeholder from dominating. CEN-CENELEC was running behind on AI Act standards. The original deadline was April 30th this year, then it got pushed to August 31st this year, and under pressure to deliver before the AI Act's higher risk requirements kick in next August, the technical board decided to shortcut the process. Instead of working towards consensus with everyone at the table, they're using small drafting groups of hand-picked experts. That's faster, but it excludes the broader stakeholder input, gives standards legitimacy. And here's the problem. When you do parallel development under the Vienna Agreement, ISO and IEC need to trust that the European process is following the same principles they follow. So when CEN-CENELEC abandons consensus, that trust disappears. So ISO-IEC says no. We're not doing parallel development with you under these conditions. So here's what you need to monitor closely. First, watch whether CEN-CENELEC reverses this decision. There are calls for the technical board to go back to consensus-based processes. If they reverse course, ISO-IEC might reconsider. Second, pay attention to the formal explanation CEN-CENELEC has to provide. European delegations bought some time, but if that explanation doesn't satisfy ISO-IEC members, the rejection becomes final. Third, monitor how the US Trade Representative responds. Washington's March 2025 report on foreign trade barriers already identified European regional standards as hindering market access, and this situation plays right into that narrative. Fourth, watch for China's moves in international standardization. If emergency procedures to bypass consensus become normalized, Beijing could use the same playbook. First thing, if you're building AI systems for global markets, don't assume European and international standards will align. You need to track both paths now. Second, get involved in your national standards body AI committee. This is where the ISO IEC versus CEN-CENELEC debate is playing out, and your voice matters in those discussions. Third, document your compliance approach carefully. If standards diverge, you'll need to show regulators in different jurisdictions how you're meeting their specific requirements. Consider building compliance frameworks flexible enough to handle multiple standard regimes.